In a world where the smallest things often carry the weight of great stories, a humble coin once exchanged for salt, rice, or ink can whisper the saga of an empire. This is the story of the 1897 1/4 anna, an unassuming copper coin minted in British India, bearing the regal profile of Queen Victoria, Empress of India. At first glance, it's just a piece of metal, a circle of bronze that changed hands thousands of times, a coin that might have slipped through the fingers of a cotton farmer in Punjab, a spice merchant in Madras, or a railway porter in Calcutta. But when we look closer, when we truly listen, we hear the voice of a time that defined nations, cultures, and the very coinage of modern India. Because this isn't just a coin, it's a relic of colonial ambition, an echo of Victorian might, and a symbol of the transformation of India, from a land of kingdoms to a colony of the British Crown. The year was 1897, a pivotal time. Victoria, once a queen, now an empress, ruled an empire on which the sun never set. India, then the crown jewel, was not merely governed, but reshaped. And in the heart of that transformation was the quarter anna, small in size, vast in meaning. In this documentary, we journey deep into the history of that coin, not just its design or mintage, but the broader tapestry it's woven into. From the grand halls of Buckingham Palace to the bustling bazaars of Bombay, from the mints in Calcutta to the pockets of colonial subjects across the subcontinent, we'll uncover the world that birthed the coin, the empress who lent it her name, the hands it passed through, and the legacy it left behind. So join us as we travel back to 1897 to the sounds, smells, politics, and passions of an empire at its peak, and rediscover the story of the Victoria Empress. 1/4 anna coin. To understand the significance of the 1897 1/4 anna, we must first understand the woman whose image it bears, Victoria. Not just Queen of Great Britain, but Empress of India. Her face on the coin wasn't simply a decorative choice. It was a political statement, a symbol of global dominion, and a mark of imperial unity under the British Crown. But who was this monarch? And how did she become the empress of a land so distant from her island throne? The rise of Victoria. Alexandrina Victoria was born on May 24, 1819, at Kensington Palace, a child of royal lineage but not immediately expected to inherit the crown. Her path to the throne only became clear after a series of untimely deaths in the royal family. In 1837, at just 18 years old, Victoria ascended the throne following the death of her uncle, King William IV. Britain was already a formidable power, fueled by the Industrial Revolution and expanding colonial influence. But it was under Victoria that the empire would reach its zenith. She ruled for over 63 years, what we now call the Victorian era, a time of immense change, industrialization, innovation, cultural transformation, and imperial expansion. But it wasn't until 1876, nearly 40 years into her reign, that a new title was bestowed upon her, Empress of India. Why Empress of India? The title wasn't just ceremonial. It was a strategic move. Following the Indian Rebellion of 1857, a major, violent uprising against British rule, the British Crown assumed direct control of India from the East India Company. This marked the beginning of the British Raj in 1858. India was no longer just a trading colony. It was now an imperial possession governed by the Crown. Benjamin Disraeli, the British Prime Minister at the time, saw the need to solidify this control. He proposed the new title, Empress of India, not merely to flatter the Queen, but to send a message to both. Britain and India, the British monarch, ruled not as a distant sovereign but as the ultimate authority over the subcontinent. On January 1, 1877, at the Delhi Durbar, a Grand Imperial Assembly in Delhi, Victoria was officially proclaimed Kaisar-i-Hind, Empress of India. This moment had deep symbolism. For Indian princes and British administrators alike, the proclamation cemented a new world order. India, with its vast population and cultural depth, was now firmly under the dominion of a woman who had never set foot on its soil. But her influence would be felt on every coin, in every courtroom, every school, every army regiment flying the Union Jack. Earlier coins had portrayed Her as a youthful queen in a neoclassical style, bareheaded, idealized. But post-1877, as Empress, a shift occurred. Victoria's profile changed. Now she wore an ornate crown, a veil, and sometimes elaborate jewels or a regal expression. This was the matronly monarch, an image of enduring stability and authority. The 1897 quarter anna is one such coin. It bears her crowned profile with the inscription, Victoria Empress, a title introduced in 1877 and used until her death in 1901. Coins weren't merely instruments of commerce. They were vehicles of power. The average Indian subject may never have seen a British soldier, a colonial governor, or even read a government order. But they had held a coin. They had seen her face. And in the world of empire, that mattered. The monarch and the myth. Interestingly, Victoria's relationship with India wasn't only political. It was, in some ways, deeply personal. In her later years, she became fascinated with Indian culture. She learned Urdu phrases, employed Indian servants at her court, including Abdul Karim, a young Indian attendant who became her close confidant and teacher, and adorned herself with Indian jewels. Many in Britain were scandalized. The conservative establishment whispered of undue influence. But Victoria remained unapologetic. In her journals, she referred to India as the brightest jewel in my crown. Her fascination wasn't performative, it was genuine. Even if steeped in colonial entitlement, Victoria never visited India, but her imagination roamed its landscapes. She collected Indian textiles, admired Indian art, and celebrated its pageantry. Yet this appreciation existed within the larger framework of domination. For the people of India, she was a distant figure of awe and ambivalence, revered by some, resented by others. Her name became entwined with policies of reform, control, and at times, exploitation. But whether loved or loathed, Victoria's presence was undeniable. Her legacy in coins. By 1897, the year of our coin, Victoria was marking her Diamond Jubilee, 60 years on the throne. Celebrations echoed across the empire. In India, grand ceremonies were held, loyal addresses made, and medals struck in her honor. The quarter anna minted that year stands as a quiet commemoration of that milestone. A copper coin, issued in vast numbers, yet now a treasured relic. It's worth noting that coinage from this era was tightly regulated. The obverse always bore Victoria's image, but the reverse often included local motifs, linguistic scripts, the denomination in English and regional languages like Urdu, Hindi, Bengali, and Tamil. This blending of imperial and indigenous elements was not accidental. It was a deliberate act of empire, projecting British authority while acknowledging local diversity. But make no mistake, the coin always told you who was in charge. Victoria Empress. 2 words. Yet behind them stood fleets, armies, governors, merchants, and a legacy that would shape South Asia for generations. As we leave behind the world of Queen Victoria, we turn now to the world she ruled, India, in 1897. A land both ancient and modernizing, traditional and industrial, resisting and adapting. A land where this small copper coin passed through countless lives, each touched by the great machine of empire. The year is 1897. Across the vast Indian subcontinent, monsoons come and go. Trains thunder across iron tracks, linking cities and ports. English language schools hum with activity. Postal riders carry messages from Madras to Lahore. And from the red brick walls of colonial government buildings, policies are issued in the name of the Empress. This is British India, vast, diverse, and complicated. It is the world that shaped the 1897 quarter anna and the world the coin itself helped to shape. A government born from rebellion. To understand British India in 1897, we must begin 4 decades earlier, with an event that reshaped the Indian political landscape forever. The Rebellion of 1857, known to the British as the Sepoy Mutiny, and to many Indians as the First War of Independence. This uprising by Indian soldiers and civilians against the East India Company was both massive and violent. In its aftermath, the British Crown dissolved the company and took direct control of India in 1858. Thus was born the British Raj. India was now ruled not by merchants, but by monarchs. A viceroy, appointed by the British government, acted as the sovereign's representative. Under him stood an elaborate bureaucracy, governors, commissioners, district collectors, all mostly British, tasked with governing over 300 million Indians. By 1897, the Raj was in full stride. The Viceroy's India. In 1897, the Viceroy of India was Lord Elgin, Victor Bruce, 9th Earl of Elgin. From his seat in Calcutta, he presided over a land spanning nearly 2 million square miles. It was a complex patchwork of directly ruled British provinces and semi-autonomous princely states. The British directly controlled about 2/3 of the landmass. The remaining third was under native rulers, Maharajas, Nawabs, and Rajas, who owed allegiance to the British Crown. But make no mistake, real power flowed from London. Every rupee spent, every tax collected, every law passed ultimately echoed decisions made in Britain's Parliament, or at least approved by the India Office in Whitehall. The British considered themselves guardians of order, civilization, and modernity. But to many Indians, the Raj represented foreign rule, economic extraction, and political marginalization. The economy of extraction. By 1897, the Indian economy was deeply entwined with British interests. India provided raw materials, cotton, jute, tea, indigo, and opium for British factories. In return, Indian markets were flooded with British manufactured goods. Railways crisscrossed the subcontinent, not just for convenience, but to serve imperial commerce. They carried cotton to Bombay's docks, tea to Calcutta's warehouses, and grain to ships bound for London. This economic system wasn't designed for Indian prosperity. It was designed for imperial gain. And yet, within this system, Indian society was adapting. A new commercial class of Indian merchants, bankers, and traders emerged. Indian landowners and moneylenders thrived under the zamindari and rayatwari systems. Cities like Bombay and Madras became centers of colonial capitalism. But rural India, where most Indians lived, remained steeped in poverty, famine, and suffering. In 1896 to 1897, India was in the grip of yet another famine, this one affecting parts of the Deccan, central provinces, and Bombay Presidency. It was one of the many famines that swept India under British rule. British policy emphasized laissez-faire economics. Relief was minimal, and grain exports often continued even during food shortages. The result? Hundreds of thousands perished. To compound tragedy, the bubonic plague erupted in Bombay in 1896 and quickly spread. In response, the British imposed strict sanitary measures, quarantines, forced house inspections, and travel restrictions. Though intended to save lives, these measures often ignored Indian customs and religious sensitivities, leading to public resentment and riots. The Quarter Anna of 1897, then, circulated in a land both modernizing and suffering. A coin of empire that passed through the hands of starving farmers, colonial officers, and urban merchants alike. The machine of modernity. Despite the challenges, the British Raj brought about profound infrastructural changes. By 1897, India had one of the world's largest railway networks, over 20,000 miles of track. Telegraph lines connected cities. A standardized postal system reached remote villages. English-language newspapers circulated ideas and information. Education reforms had created a growing class of Indian professionals, lawyers, teachers, doctors, many trained in the West or in newly founded Indian universities. These individuals, many of them fluent in English and familiar with European political ideas, would later play key roles in India's nationalist movements. But in 1897, they were still negotiating their identity, subjects of empire, yet thinkers of freedom, culture, religion, and control. India in 1897 was a mosaic of faiths: Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Jains, and others. The British, after 1857, had adopted a cautious policy toward religion. They claimed neutrality, but often used religious division to maintain control. They encouraged the growth of separate communal identities. In education, they sometimes segregated curricula. In legal systems, they maintained separate personal laws. While public festivals were tolerated, even encouraged to win loyalty, behind the scenes, the colonial administration kept a tight watch on anything that might turn religious unity into political protest. And yet, India's spiritual life flourished. The Arya Samaj, the Brahmo Samaj, and other reformist Hindu movements gained traction. Muslim intellectuals like Sir Syed Ahmed Khan promoted modern education. Sikh institutions were being revitalized. And in Bengal, thinkers like Swami Vivekananda were reimagining India's spiritual identity on a global stage. Into this dynamic, multifaceted world, a simple copper coin was minted and released. A quarter anna, marked not just with a denomination, but with the weight of empire. The dawn of national consciousness. By 1897, a political awakening was stirring. The Indian National Congress, founded just 12 years earlier in 1885, was still a largely moderate organization, seeking greater Indian participation in government through petitions, speeches, and resolutions. Most of its early leaders were English-educated elites, loyal to the crown but increasingly frustrated with racial discrimination and limited administrative roles. They didn't yet demand full independence, but they laid the intellectual groundwork. Meanwhile, a new generation of nationalists was beginning to emerge, one that would question not only the British administration but the very idea of imperial rule. Even in 1897, in cities like Pune, Bombay, and Calcutta, you could sense the change coming. And ironically, the very infrastructure of empire, railways, printing presses, postal networks, helped spread that change. The British had sought to unify India under their rule. But in doing so, they had also, unintentionally, sown the seeds of Indian unity. Coins as colonial tools. And this is where we return to our coin. The quarter anna wasn't just currency, it was policy. Its uniform weight and design reflected British efficiency. Its bilingual inscription, English on one side, Persian script on the other, reflected a calculated cultural balancing act. It was minted in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras, major colonial centers of power. And most crucially, it bore the words, Victoria Empress, not Queen of England, not ruler of Britain, but Empress of India, a title meant to assert legitimacy and power over an ancient civilization. Every time a farmer received this coin for his harvest, every time a mother gave it to her child to buy sweets, every time a clerk counted them at the end of a workday, the message was reinforced. This land is ruled by the British Crown, a country in transition. India in 1897 was at a crossroads. It was not yet the India of Gandhi, Nehru, and independence, but it was no longer the India of fragmented kingdoms and feuding Nawabs either. It was a colonized nation waking slowly to its own strength. It was a civilization older than Rome, now wrapped in the modern trappings of Western Empire. It's easy to overlook such a coin. Small, everyday, commonplace. But every coin tells a story. And in 1897, the quarter anna told the story of a land ruled, yet resilient, of an empire in its prime, and a people on the verge of rediscovering themselves. Money is power. And in colonial India, coins were not only a medium of exchange, they were instruments of empire. In this chapter, we trace the evolution of Indian coinage under British rule, a tale of conquest, consolidation, and symbolism. We explore how the simple act of minting money became a declaration of authority, and how the quarter anna of 1897 was born from decades of economic control, imperial design, and cultural negotiation. Let us begin at the heart of the transition, from the trading outposts of the East India Company to the imperial throne of the British Crown, from trade to dominion, the East India Company era. Before the British Crown took direct control of India, it was governed unevenly, and often ruthlessly, by a corporation, the British East India Company. Founded in 1600, the company originally operated with a commercial charter from Queen Elizabeth I. Its goal? Trade. Its tool? Monopoly. Its reach? Expansive. By the 18th century, the East India Company had moved well beyond spices and silks. It had private armies, political alliances, and enormous wealth. In Bengal, Bombay, and Madras, it minted its own coins, some in the name of Mughal emperors, others bearing European designs. The coinage of this era was chaotic. The subcontinent remained fragmented. Each princely state, Nawabdom, and colonial enclave had its own currency, often with different weights, denominations, languages, and metallic content. In many regions, coins were still hand-struck. Counterfeiting was rampant. Trust in currency varied wildly from one region to another. But the East India Company, seeking uniformity, began imposing its own standards, introducing machine-minted coins in the late 1700s and early 1800s. And with each new mint and design, the company sent a subtle message: we are not just traders. We are rulers. The issuing of coin in the name of the sovereign is both a right and a duty of governance. By mid-1800s, coins issued by the company were already shifting focus. The Mughal emperor's name was fading. English inscriptions were rising, and silver rupees and copper annas minted in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras began to dominate markets. But then came 1857, the revolt and the Raj. The Great Uprising of 1857 was a turning point not only for India, but for its coinage. The rebellion, fueled by widespread discontent with company rule, was partially sparked by rumors that cartridges for new rifles were greased with cow and pig fat, offensive to both Hindu and Muslim sepoys. But it wasn't just about cartridges. It was about years of disrespect, broken treaties, economic hardship, and cultural insensitivity. When the dust settled, the British Parliament took swift action. The East India Company was dissolved, its army absorbed into the British military, its governance handed over to the British Crown. And with this transfer of power, the very image of Indian coinage would change forever. The Coinage Act of 1861. In 1861, the British Raj passed the Indian Coinage Act, a milestone law that centralized control of all coin production. No longer would provincial mints, local rulers, or private entities mint currency. Only the Government of India, under the authority of the Crown, could issue official coinage. This act standardized denominations, metallic content, and most importantly, the monarch's image. From now on, coins in India would bear the face of the British sovereign. Initially, this was Queen Victoria, first as Queen on pre-1877 coins, and later as Empress. The transition was complete. India's currency now carried the ultimate symbol of British dominion. Standardization didn't happen overnight, but by the 1870s and 1880s, the effects were clear. Three presidency mints, Bombay, Madras, and Calcutta, became central hubs of coin production. Coin designs became uniform across India, with only the mint mark, or absence of one, to indicate where they were struck. English became the dominant language on coins, though regional scripts like Persian, Urdu, continued to appear, especially on lower denominations like the quarter anna. The coinage system was simplified into the rupee-based structure. A 1 rupee equals 16 annas. A 1 anna equals 4 pice. A 1 pice equals 3 pies. The quarter anna, introduced more prominently after this standardization, equaled 1/64th of a rupee, a modest but common denomination. Used in everyday transactions, it was the coin of the commoner, accessible, functional, and ubiquitous. And by 1897, this coin had become the economic heartbeat of colonial India. Symbolism in metal. Coinage wasn't just economic, it was symbolic. A coin was often the only daily interaction an Indian subject had with the British sovereign. For millions who never saw a British official, the coin served as a constant reminder of imperial power. That's why design mattered. Coins from 1862 onward began to depict Queen Victoria in profile. The earlier ones, up to 1876, were labelled Victoria Queen. But after the Delhi Durbar of 1877, new coins declared her Victoria Empress. This change wasn't cosmetic, it was political. India was no longer a company possession. It was a crown colony, and the Empress was its figurehead. From 1877 until her death in 1901, all Indian coins bearing Victoria's face included the title Empress. The 1897 quarter anna is a product of this mature colonial phase. Its design, a crowned bust of Victoria facing left, surrounded by the Latin inscription, Victoria Empress, encapsulates this assertion of power. The reverse side, adorned with elegant scrollwork and the denomination in both, English and Persian script. Acknowledges India's diversity, but still within a framework of control. The mints of empire. Where were these coins made? In 1897, 3 mints were primarily responsible for India's coinage. 1. Calcutta Mint, the largest and oldest. Founded in the 18th century, it handled a significant portion of copper coin production. 2. Bombay Mint, opened in 1829. It was known for efficiency and high output. 3. Madras Mint, active during early British rule, but gradually faded after centralization. Each mint had its unique symbol, though most 1897 quarter annas were struck in Calcutta and Bombay. Notably, the 1897 quarter anna carries no mint mark if it was struck in Calcutta, and a dot or small mark below the date if from Bombay. These small differences, unnoticed by most users, are now prized by numismatists, evidence of a coin's origin within the machinery of empire. We struck thousands each day. Hands blistered, machines roared. But each coin that rolled off the press carried the face of a queen we'd never seen, and a rule we could never forget. For the British, coinage wasn't only about economy, it was about credibility. A well-struck, consistent, and durable coin helped secure public trust. And trust was vital in an empire where revolts, famines, and political tensions simmered beneath the surface. The quarter anna, though modest in value, had to be made right, uniform in size, weight 4.85 grams, and copper composition. It had to work not just in Madras and Lahore, but in the highlands of Assam and the bazaars of Sindh. And most importantly, it had to silently, daily, and universally declare, India is British. Victoria is Empress. By the late 1890s, whispers of change were in the air. Victoria's health was declining. She had ruled for over 6 decades, becoming a near mythical figure. But all things imperial, even coinage, must evolve. The 1897 quarter anna would be among the last coins issued during her reign. Just 4 years later, in 1901, she passed away. Her son, Edward VII, would soon take her place on India's coins. But Victoria's image, her crown, her title, her gaze, had become etched into the Indian monetary psyche. For generations, Indians would recall her as the monarch on their money. The quarter anna was never just a copper disc. It was a piece of propaganda, a tool of administration, and a relic of transformation. The story of coinage in colonial India is the story of empire itself, ambitious, disruptive, orderly on the surface, yet deeply contested underneath. In the 1897 quarter anna, we see the culmination of this story, a coin forged from rebellion and reform, struck in the name of a foreign queen, yet spent in the service of Indian lives. It is, quite literally, the transition of power, cast in copper. It is the smallest coins that most often pass through the greatest number of hands. They pay for sweets, for ink, for a measure of salt. They vanish into the folds of a cloth pouch, reappear at the foot of a merchant scale, or jingle in the pockets of a railway porter. Such was the life of the quarter anna. In this chapter, we trace the genesis of this humble denomination, how it emerged from a fractured system of pre-modern currency into a standardized instrument of British colonial control. We explore how the quarter anna was born not only out of economic need but out of imperial design, and how its copper face came to reflect a nation in transition. A brief history of Indian coinage before the anna. For thousands of years, India was home to one of the most diverse and innovative coinage traditions in the world. From the punch-marked silver coins of the Mauryan Empire to the richly adorned gold mohurs of the Mughal emperors, Indian money reflected regional culture, religious beliefs, and political change. By the 18th century, however, Indian currency was in disarray. Different regions used different systems. The rupee had emerged as a standard silver coin under the Mughals, but copper and billion coins, known by names like dam, paisa, and anna, varied widely in weight and shape. A traveller moving from Delhi to Madras might need to convert his money multiple times, each time losing a bit in the exchange. The East India Company, with its appetite for order and profit, saw this inconsistency as both a challenge and an opportunity. To control the economy, they would first need to control the currency. The Anna system emerges. During the company's rule, a new system began to standardize the Anna-based structure. A 1 rupee equals 16 annas. A 1 anna equals 4 pice. A 1 pice equals 3 pies. This system, decimals before decimals, allowed for easier conversion and simpler counting. And in this framework, the quarter anna made its appearance. Worth 1/64th of a rupee, or 1/4 of an anna. It was a logical and practical denomination, small enough for common purchases, yet large enough to matter in daily transactions. The earliest forms of the quarter anna appeared in the early 19th century, especially in the Bombay and Madras presidencies, where copper coinage was widely used by the masses. But there was no single, uniform quarter anna. Each presidency had its own design, its own weight standard, and even its own language preferences on the coin. It wasn't until the British Crown assumed control in 1858, and later with the Coinage Act of 1861, that the idea of a unified, empire-wide quarter anna truly took hold. The standardization of the quarter anna. From 1862 onward, following the major reforms in currency, the quarter anna became a key part of British India's standardized monetary hierarchy. The newly minted coins were made of copper, with a standard weight of 4.85 grams, roughly 25.4 millimeters in diameter, struck using advanced mechanical presses for better uniformity, inscribed with quarter anna India on one side and the monarch's title and image on the other. These coins were minted in Calcutta, Bombay, and sometimes Madras, depending on the year and demand. The quarter anna became one of the most circulated coins in India, especially among the lower and middle classes. It was the coin you used to buy daily groceries, to give a beggar, or to pay a street vendor. It wasn't glamorous, but it was essential. And over time, it came to represent something far more profound: the invisible reach of empire into everyday life. Victoria Queen versus Victoria Empress. From 1862 to 1876, the quarter anna bore the inscription Victoria Queen. But after 1877, everything changed. When Queen Victoria was proclaimed Empress of India, all subsequent coins, including the quarter anna, began to bear the new title, Victoria Empress. The change was more than just linguistic. It was ideological. This simple copper coin, in the hands of farmers and shopkeepers, now carried the full weight of imperial authority. It connected the poorest Indian subject to the richest monarch in the world. And nowhere is this transition clearer than in the 1897 issue of the coin. By then, the Victoria Empress quarter anna was a well-known and trusted piece of currency, familiar to millions, yet deeply political in its symbolism. Why the quarter anna was so important? You might ask, why did the British mint such small denominations at all? After all, what could 1/64th of a rupee buy? But to understand this is to understand colonial India itself. A daily wage labourer in the late 1800s might earn only 1 or 2 annas per day. The quarter anna was an important part of that small economy. A market trade, in village bazaars, vegetables, spices, or simple tools might cost just a quarter or half anna. A transport, a short cart ride or boat crossing, might be paid with a few quarter annas. A charity and offerings, religious donations at temples or alms for the poor were often given in these copper coins. The British understood this. Control the small denominations, and you control the foundation of the colonial economy. And so, while silver rupees dominated trade and taxes, it was coins like the quarter anna that ruled the streets. The design language of authority. The design of the quarter anna evolved slightly over the years, but always retained core imperial elements. Obverse, front a left-facing bust of Queen Victoria, wearing a crown and veil, surrounded by the Latin inscription Victoria Empress. A reverse, back the words, Quarter Anna India 1897, surrounded by intricate foliage, often inspired by Indian floral motifs, delicate and balanced, yet unmistakably British in its layout. The bilingual or trilingual nature of many British Indian coins, including use of Persian or Urdu, alongside English, was also intentional. It signaled inclusion while maintaining dominance. We see your language, the coin seemed to say, but we speak it on our terms. Even the floral patterns carried layered meanings, chosen to reflect Indian aesthetics, but curated by British designers. The coin and the colonial mindset. For the British, coins were more than instruments of commerce, they were tools of legitimacy. A coin issued by a ruler was an assertion: I am sovereign. My image means trust. My authority means value. That's why counterfeiters were punished so severely. A fake coin wasn't just fraud, it was treason. And so, with each quarter anna issued, the British weren't just stabilizing the economy, they were reinforcing their right to rule. They knew that in a society where oral tradition and symbolic meaning carried weight, the coin could be more persuasive than a speech, more enduring than a law. It was imperial branding, copper-cast, pocket-sized, mass-distributed propaganda. The final word, a coin with consequence. By the time our specific coin, the 1897 quarter anna, was struck, the denomination had become deeply rooted in India's monetary life. Its origins lay in the confusion of fragmented kingdoms and uneven exchange. Its form was shaped by corporate power and then imperial will. Its design carried the face of an empress who never set foot on Indian soil, but ruled it with firm resolve. It was spent countless times. Lost, found, melted, down, collected, forgotten, remembered, and today, it serves as a gateway, a key to unlock the daily realities of a century long gone. A time when a quarter anna could buy you a warm meal, a child's toy, a bowl of lentils, or a moment of dignity. It wasn't just a coin. It was the measure of my day. How much I'd sold, how much I'd earned, how far I'd walked. A coin so small, and yet it kept the whole market turning. The quarter anna was born from the meeting of worlds, Indian and British, ancient and modern, economic and imperial. And in 1897, as India stood on the cusp of change, this coin stood firm, a copper circle with stories etched in every scratch. In the next chapter, we look closely at the 1897 coin itself, its artwork, mint marks, engravers, and the meaning behind its every curve. Because every coin has a design, and every design, a message. Every coin tells a story, not just in where it has traveled, but in how it was made. The 1897 Victoria Empress 1 quarter anna is no exception. This coin is more than copper. It is crafted narrative, miniature architecture, political theatre cast in metal. In this chapter, we take a closer look. We examine the coin's design, its portrait, lettering, motifs, and minting precision. We decode its visual language, and we uncover how its symbolism served both artistry and empire. Because while a coin may pass through 1,000 hands, its design always points to one source: power. Let us begin by holding the coin in our mind's eye. Turn the coin over in your palm. The front, or obverse, presents the monarch herself. Her profile is unmistakable. Facing left, regal, stern, timeless. This is Queen Victoria, Empress of India. She wears a small crown, known as the imperial state. Crown, nestled over a widow's veil that drapes modestly behind her head. Her dress is formal, textured with subtle lines, suggesting royal embroidery. Surrounding her bust, in bold, capital serif letters, the inscription, Victoria Empress. This is no generic bust. It is an icon designed to evoke strength and continuity. By 1897, this portrait was used consistently across Indian coinage, replacing earlier depictions of a younger, bareheaded Victoria found on pre-1877 coins. The Empress portrait is older, dignified, and deliberate. Indeed, this portrait is believed to have been based on sketches and sculptures, commissioned in the 1870s and 1880s, possibly influenced by the work of William Wyon and later, George William de Soles of the Royal Mint. The face is stoic, almost impersonal, but beneath that impassive expression lies a powerful message. I am the mother of empire. I am not only your queen, I am your empress. Now turn the coin over. The reverse is text-based, but far from plain. Centered in large, formal serif type. Quarter anna. India. 1897. 3 lines. Simple, clear, commanding, But surrounding this text is what truly makes the design distinct: an ornate wreath-like floral border, crafted with artistic precision. The leaves are stylized, perhaps inspired by mango, peepal, or laurel forms. Some numismatists believe the design blends Indian botanical patterns with British neoclassical symmetry. The floral wreath encircles the text completely, closed, contained, orderly. A symbol, perhaps, of how the empire viewed its dominions: beautiful, cultivated, and ringed by control. Along the very edge of the coin is a raised beaded rim, also called denticulation, used to help the coin resist wear and to prevent clipping. And just below the date, you may find a small symbol or dot. This is the mint mark, indicating where the coin was struck. A no mint mark equals Calcutta. A dot or diamond below the date equals Bombay. A M or other rare marks equals Madras, earlier periods only. The quarter anna was primarily bilingual, featuring inscriptions in English and Persian. Script, Urdu. Though on some denominations and earlier issues, you might also see Devanagari or Bengali. But by 1897, the quarter anna prominently bore its inscription in Persian script on the reverse border, a remnant of Mughal-era administrative tradition that the British maintained, strategically, to appeal to Muslim elites and maintain continuity. This visual duality, a Western queen with Eastern script, speaks volumes. It says, "We rule your land, but we speak your language when we choose to." The coin thus becomes a bilingual proclamation of power. Typography and style, form meets function. The fonts used on the 1897 coin are crisp serif capitals, a classic 19th century choice, conveying elegance and authority. The spacing is balanced. The size of the words gives hierarchy. Quarter anna is the focal point. India roots it geographically, and 1897 timestamps it in history. The uniformity reflects the precision of mechanical minting technology, something only imperial mints could afford at the time. This was British design, tailored for Indian currency, a blend of clarity, power, and permanence. The wreath was not only decorative, it separated this coin visually from the more utilitarian designs of higher denominations like the rupee. It said, "This is a coin for the people," but it is still imperial. The technology behind the art. By the late 19th century, the mints in Calcutta and Bombay were among the most advanced in Asia. The 1897 quarter anna was machine-struck, using steam-powered presses that applied uniform pressure to both dies, ensuring clean, identical impressions across thousands of coins per day. The copper planchets, small blanks of metal, were cut, annealed, softened, cleaned, and struck in rapid succession. Each coin was 4.85 grams, with a smooth edge, no reading. And while the denomination was small, the effort behind it was massive. Let's break down the deeper meanings encoded in the coin. A Victoria's portrait, not just a likeness, but an assertion of imperial legitimacy. An empress title, reinforcement of the 1876 Delhi Durbar Declaration. A wreath border, cultivation, order, containment. A metaphor for how the empire viewed India. A bilingual text, cultural accommodation with imperial framing. A copper material, practical for mass use, but still governed by high authority. A 1897 date, a diamond jubilee year, symbolizing Victoria's longevity and global dominion. Each of these elements, separately and together, tells us something about the time. The coin is not loud, but it is eloquent. The coin in use, in pockets and palms. In 1897, the quarter anna was not a collector's item. It was a tool of daily life. It bought fruit in the market. It paid a child's school fee. It served as change in a transaction for cloth or salt. It was used to donate at temples and mosques. It may even have been flipped to settle disputes, tails or heads. It was small, abundant, and trusted. But each time it was used, it reinforced the same message. This is the system. This is the ruler. This is the value. In its design, the coin did not celebrate India. It celebrated India's place in the empire. And yet, over time, it became India's own. A familiar object. A part of memory. Collector's insights. What makes the 1897 quarter anna special? To collectors and historians, The 1897 issue holds a unique place, ere it was minted during Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, 60 years on the throne. Ere the coin captures the late colonial style, refined and confident, depending on condition, mint marks, and die varieties. Its value can range from modest to significant. Coins from the Bombay Mint, with clear detail, tend to be more desirable to collectors than worn Calcutta strikes. In high-grade condition, known as UNC or uncirculated, the coin's detail shines. Every leaf of the wreath, every serif of each letter, the folds in Victoria's veil. But even in worn condition, the coin retains its character. The smoothing of her face, the fading of the date, all these marks are part of its story. No two coins age the same way. The design of the 1897 Victoria Empress 1/4 Anna is not extravagant. It is not gold, nor silver. It does not dazzle. But it speaks, with balance, with elegance, and with quiet force. It reflects the empire at its peak. An empire that believed in order, hierarchy, and permanence. An empire that branded even its smallest currency with the same authority as its largest proclamations. This coin was not meant to impress, it was meant to endure. And more than a century later, it has. Behind every coin lies a factory of fire, pressure, and precision, a realm of roaring furnaces and hammering presses, where molten metal is given meaning. The year is 1897. The Victoria Empress. 1/4 Anna is not a rare, commemorative. It is not cast in gold, nor reserved for royalty. And yet, it is the product of an extraordinary industrial process. In this chapter, we step behind the iron gates and into the heart of colonial India's minting empire. We enter the very workshops where copper blanks became vessels of power, and where Queen Victoria's likeness was pressed onto tens of millions of coins, destined for the palms and pockets of British India. The imperial mints of India. During the late 19th century, two main mints formed the backbone of coin production in British India. The Calcutta Mint, the Bombay Mint. These weren't mere stamping stations, they were vast complexes, blending British engineering with Indian labour, producing not only Indian currency but coins for other British colonies as well. Each mint operated under the strict oversight of the British colonial administration, ensuring that the standards of weight, composition, and design were upheld to the exacting standards of the Crown. Let's visit each of these minting giants, starting with the elder of the two, Calcutta. Calcutta Mint, the colonial workhorse. The Calcutta Mint, founded in 1757 and modernized multiple times throughout the 19th century, was the oldest and most prolific mint in British India. By 1897, it had long been the empire's eastern coining powerhouse. Located on Strand Road, near the Hooghly River, it operated a vast system of furnaces, rolling mills, and steam presses imported from England. This was where many of the 1897 1/4 Anna coins were struck, especially those without mint marks, which were standard for Calcutta issues. The Calcutta Mint employed thousands, engineers, metallurgists, machinists, die cutters, and an army of Indian laborious who managed everything from shoveling coal to sorting and inspecting freshly minted coins. While Calcutta had age on its side, Bombay Mint, established in 1829, had modernity, equipped with the latest steam-powered coining presses and boasting superior ventilation and efficiency. Bombay became the rival mint of the West. It primarily served Western India and overseas territories like East Africa and the Persian Gulf. In 1897, coins minted in Bombay carried a tiny dot or diamond below the date, the clearest indicator of their origin. The journey of each 1897 quarter Anna began not with a coin, but with a sheet of raw copper. Step 1. Melting and alloying. Copper, often imported from Britain or mined in India, was melted in giant crucibles. At nearly 1,100 degrees Celsius, the metal flowed like lava, poured into molds to cool into long slabs. Though pure copper was used in some issues, many quarter annas were slightly alloyed for hardness and durability. Step 2. Rolling and cutting. Once cooled, these slabs were fed through heavy rolling mills, flattening them to the precise thickness needed, usually around 1.6 millimeters. from these sheets. Small copper blanks, also called planchets, were punched out using circular cutting dies. These blanks would become the coins themselves. Step 3. Annealing and cleaning. Before striking, the blanks were annealed, heated again and slowly cooled to soften the metal. This allowed for a cleaner, sharper strike during minting. The softened blanks were then tumbled in barrels, with sand or acid solution to remove surface impurities, giving them a bright, clean surface. Step 4. Striking the coin. Here, art met industry. Each blank was fed into a steam-powered press between two dies, steel stamps, bearing the design of the coin. The obverse die, with Victoria's bust, was fixed in the lower bed. The reverse die, with quarter anna India 1897, was mounted above. With immense pressure, sometimes over 60 tons per strike, the dies crushed into the blank, imprinting both sides simultaneously in a fraction of a second. The finished 1897 quarter anna had the following specifications: a metal, copper, a weight, tilde 4.85 grams, a diameter, tilde 25.4 mm, a thickness, tilde 1.6 mm, a edge, plain, a shape, round, a orientation, metal alignment, both sides upright when flipped vertically. Its smooth edge and modest weight made it convenient for mass circulation, while the detailed design gave it a distinct presence among Indian coinage of the time. Most casual users never noticed the tiny symbols below the date. But today, these mint marks are crucial for collectors and historians. A no-mark Calcutta mint, a dot or diamond Bombay mint, or other marks, like a B, or unusual symbols, are extremely rare and may indicate pattern issues or restrikes. Even among 1897 coins, subtle die differences exist. These include a minor differences in Victoria's bust, a leaf-shape variations in the wreath, a spacing between letters. Such details, invisible to the naked eye, now form the basis of numismatic grading and valuation. Coining the 1897 quarter anna wasn't just about machinery. It was also about people, skilled and unskilled, British and Indian. A mintmasters oversaw operations, ensuring every coin met imperial standards. A die engravers trained in England cut the steel dies used to strike the coins. A technicians and engineers maintained the delicate timing of the presses. A Indian laborers, working in extreme heat and noise, did the heavy lifting, shoveling coal, moving blanks, sorting struck coins. Despite their essential role, Indian workers received low wages, minimal recognition, and little protection from workplace hazards. In an age of hand-struck forgeries, British India's mechanized coinage provided built-in anti-counterfeiting measures. A precision weight and diameter made fakes easy to detect by treasuries. A complex engravings and sharp die details were difficult to replicate manually. Our inspection departments at each mint rejected faulty coins before they entered circulation. Still, local counterfeits did exist, cruder, lighter, often struck from inferior copper. These fakes are now collectible curiosities, but in 1897, they were considered economic threats. Once minted, coins were packed in sealed bags and crates, each stamped with the mint's insignia and delivery date. From there, they were sent via rail or river barge to a provincial treasuries, a colonial banks, or army pay stations, or Indian princely states under British suzerainty. The quarter anna circulated widely, from Calcutta to Karachi, from Madras to Multan. It became the small change of daily life, used for sweets, candles, bullock cart rides, and telegrams. Wherever you travelled in India in 1897, you were never far from a copper coin bearing the Queen's face. The 1897 quarter anna was born from fire and pressure, but its true power lay in its repetition, in the countless strikes from dies, in the identical faces of Victoria, in the uniform inscriptions that blanketed the subcontinent. It was the voice of the empire, repeated again and again. And though Queen Victoria would pass away just 4 years later, her coins would linger, in drawers, in soil, in family keepsakes. From molten copper to minted authority, the 1897 quarter anna is more than history. It is a relic of process, precision, and the empire's relentless rhythm. And next, we look at how that coin, so meticulously produced, made its way into the living, breathing culture of British India. It was not kept in banks. It was not locked in safes. The 1/4 anna of 1897 lived where life happened, in the dust of market stalls, the prayers of temple courtyards, the clutter of railway platforms, and the quiet rustle of rupee sacks. This was no collector's coin in its time. It was the sound of daily India. And in 1897, it passed through more hands in a single day than its queen ever could in a lifetime. When the freshly minted 1/4 anna left the gates of the Bombay or Calcutta Mint, it entered a different world altogether. In the teeming streets of colonial cities like Madras, Lahore, and Allahabad, the coin became invisible in its familiarity. It was exchanged so often and so effortlessly that most forgot to even look at the face engraved on it. In 1897, 1 rupee was subdivided into 64 pice, and 1 pice was made up of 4/4 annas. That made the quarter anna a 125/60th of a rupee, a fractional currency, almost laughably small by today's standards. But to the common man, woman, and child in 1897, it was real money, tangible, practical, spendable. Let's step into a dusty colonial alley in 1897. The 1/4 anna jingles in the cloth purse of a fruit seller. A customer approaches. A ripe mango. 1/4 anna. A cup of steaming chai. A quarter. A newspaper in English or Urdu. Half an anna, 2 coins. A short distance tram ride in Bombay. 1 to 2 annas. In rural India, the coin went even further. It could buy firewood, a handful of rice, or a silver nose stud in small bazaars. In villages, it wasn't uncommon for these coins to be tied into cloth corners or buried beneath floor mats, both as currency and as savings. By 1897, India had one of the largest railway networks in the world, and the 1/4 anna was its companion. Third-class train tickets often cost 2 to 4 annas for short trips, and passengers handed over their small copper coins at wooden windows manned by sleepy British clerks or brisk Indian station assistants. At telegraph offices, you could send a message, 3 words for 1 anna. A brief telegram to another city could cost you exactly 4/4 annas. Communication was as measured and commodified as copper. India in 1897 was not one country. It was a patchwork of languages, kingdoms, provinces, and presidencies. And yet, the 1/4 anna moved seamlessly between them. From the princely state of Mysore to the cotton mills of Ahmedabad, from the ghats of Benares to the tea gardens of Assam, it was a coin understood by all. The bilingual inscription, reading 1/4 anna India, 1897 inch, in English and Persian script, was part of its brilliance. It transcended linguistic boundaries. In markets where Gujarati, Telugu, or Punjabi were spoken, few could read the English text, but all recognized the weight, the color, and the familiar curve of Queen Victoria's crown profile. The 1/4 anna also had its place in the spiritual life of colonial India. At temples, worshippers would drop coins into donation boxes. At mosques, they would gift them to the poor. In Christian churches, they were placed into baskets passed along narrow pews. In gurdwaras, they accompanied offerings of grain or cloth. Coins were often wrapped in red thread and given as blessings at weddings or births. They were sometimes sewn into garments for protection, or placed under the tongues of the deceased, a gesture of payment for the journey beyond. To many children, the 1/4 anna was their first encounter with money. It jingled in school lunches and pocket money, often exchanged for street treats or toy trinkets sold from wooden carts. For many, it was a small thrill, the gateway to independence. In colonial schools, teachers might charge a few annas a week. Children brought coins wrapped in cloth, shyly placing them on cracked wooden desks. For the Indian labor class, mill workers, dockhands, domestic servants, the 1/4 anna was a wage, a cost, and a measure of survival. Day wages could range from 4 to 12 annas for low-skill jobs. This meant a 1/4 anna represented as much as 1/160th of a day's earnings. Some laborious would receive part of their wages in handfuls of copper coins. At the end of the week, they would count their earnings not in rupees, but in annas, holding them close, wrapping them in cloth pouches, and bargaining hard for every grain. We carried them in our pockets like prayer beads. Each coin meant we could eat another day. You don't forget that weight. Long after their official use faded, coins like the 1897 quarter anna remained in the homes and memories of those who lived through the empire. Some were stored in glass jars, others passed down with stories attached. A few were worn as pendants, or tied onto infants' wrists with black thread to ward off the evil eye. Collectors today may value such coins for their age or rarity, but for those who lived through the late Victorian era in India, the value was personal. I kept one in my sari's hem from the year my brother was born. I never spent it. It reminded me of him. Even as it spread far and wide, the quarter anna wasn't immune to forgery. Some local forgers cast fake versions, lighter in weight, made of inferior copper or brass. Others would shave small amounts of metal from the edges, debasing the coin ever so slightly to melt and sell. This was particularly common in famine years or during copper shortages. British authorities took such offences seriously. Inspectors in railway offices and district treasuries were trained to weigh coins precisely and reject any that failed the test. It's easy to see the quarter anna as a symbol of imperial control, bearing the face of a distant queen, minted by foreign rulers, circulated across a subjugated land. But the coin also became part of something larger. It became Indian. It adapted. It endured. And when India's freedom movement gained strength in the early 20th century, these same coins, small, abundant, and anonymous, were sometimes used to fund protests, print pamphlets, and buy food for imprisoned activists. The Queen was on the coin, yes, but we spent it for our cause. That was our quiet rebellion. The 1897 quarter anna remained in active use for decades, even after Queen Victoria's death in 1901. Though new designs emerged under King Edward VII and George V, coins bearing Victoria's name continued to circulate well into the 1930s. Some were eventually withdrawn, others melted down for reuse, and a lucky few survived, hidden in heirlooms buried under floorboards, or sealed in old British lockboxes left behind during the Raj's twilight years. Today, they sit in collectors' albums and antique shops, but in 1897, they lived in the rhythm of Indian life. To hold the 1897 quarter anna today is to hold a moment of touch between ruler and ruled. A single coin, small in value, vast in history, a relic not only of what was spent, but what was felt. In the next chapter, we turn from the streets of 1897, India, to the rare cabinets of today's collectors, where this humble copper coin now commands a very different kind of value. What once slipped through the hands of vegetable vendors, school children, and railway clerks now rests behind glass, in auction rooms, collector cabinets, and museum drawers. The 1 quarter anna of 1897, humble in its day, has crossed a threshold, from currency to curiosity, from coin to collectible. But how rare is it? And what makes one 1897 coin worth a few rupees, and another worth hundreds of dollars? This is the story of rarity, collectability, and value, the modern afterlife of a coin born in the age of empires. By the early 20th century, millions of copper quarter annas from the 1890s had circulated throughout British India. These coins were not rare in their own time. Quite the opposite, they were mass-produced, durable, and intended to be used until worn smooth. And so, most of them were. Many were melted down or discarded in the years following India's independence. Others were gradually replaced by smaller denomination coins as inflation made the quarter anna obsolete. Today, the 1897 quarter anna survives, but in dramatically uneven condition. In the modern collector's world, condition is everything. A well-struck 1897 quarter anna, with sharp details, Queen Victoria's crown crisp, the wreath fully visible, and no signs of corrosion, can command serious attention. Coin grading is an art and a science. From poor to mint state, each step in condition adds, or subtracts, value. Let's break it down. Poor, PO1 to G for heavily worn, often unreadable. Common and barely collectible. A fine, F12 to VF20 worn but with visible details. These make up the bulk of what's found in old coin lots. Are extremely fine, XF40 to -58 Australian dollars light wear, good detail. Now we are getting rare. Are uncirculated, MS60 and above no signs of wear, as if just struck yesterday. Exceptionally rare for 1897 copper coins. The British minted the 1897 quarter anna at 2 primary locations. A Calcutta mint. These coins were issued without a mint mark. A Bombay mint. Coins bear a small dot beneath the date, denoting their origin. This dot, barely a millimeter wide, can change everything for a collector. Why? Because the Bombay mint produced far fewer coins that year compared to Calcutta. And over the decades, many of those were lost or degraded due to environmental factors. As a result, Bombay mint quarter annas from 1897 in high grade are considered scarce and are more sought after than their Calcutta counterparts. Beyond mints and grades, another level of intrigue awaits: die varieties and minting errors. These are subtle differences introduced during the production process, differences invisible to most, but golden to seasoned collectors. Some examples include overstrikes, where an older coin was struck again, creating ghost-like impressions underneath, and misalignments, slight off-center strikes, not valuable unless dramatic. A die cracks, raised lines from fractured dies. Some varieties are documented and rare. A repunched dates or letters, where the numeral 7 in 1897 appears to have been struck twice. What is the coin worth today? On average, a circulated 1897 1/4 anna sells for a 30 Indian rupees to 150 Indian rupees INR, roughly $0.50 to $2 USD, in worn condition. A 200 Indian rupees to 800 Indian rupees INR, $2.50 to $10 USD, in fine to very fine. A 1,000 Indian rupees to 5,000 Indian rupees INR, $12 to $60 USD, in high grade or lightly uncirculated. Are up to 15,000 Indian rupees INR or more, over 180 US dollars. For mint state, Bombay mint examples, or documented errors. These figures fluctuate based on the global copper coin market, or availability of similar coins at auction, or interest from foreign versus Indian collectors, or authentication and certification by grading services, like NGC or PCGS. The 1897 quarter anna attracts a wide array of collectors, or Indian heritage collectors, seeking a tangible link to colonial history, a British Rajira enthusiasts, curating collections of Victorian coins minted outside Britain, a Victoria portrait collectors, focusing on coins featuring the Empress from around the world, a beginner numismatists, drawn to its affordability and historic charm. It's often the first copper coin in many Indian collectors' albums, accessible, evocative, and emotionally charged. Preserving a 1897 quarter anna isn't just about keeping it shiny. It's about respecting history. Tips from seasoned collectors: or avoid cleaning with chemicals or abrasives. It can damage patina and lower value. A store in dry, acid-free environments. Humidity is copper's worst enemy. A use soft flips or archival quality holders. A for high-grade coins, consider grading and encapsulation by a professional body. Despite being minted in colonial India, the 1897 quarter anna has found homes across the globe. In London, it's a memory of empire. In Delhi, a memory of resistance. In New York or Tokyo, a piece of copper with a queen's face, mysterious, exotic, oddly beautiful. And on eBay, Etsy, and collector forums, the coin changes hands again, its journey, continuing long after its value as currency ended. A coin is more than metal. It's more than denomination or grade. The 1897 quarter anna carries with it the dust of the bazaar, the click of the telegraph key, the hush of the prayer mat, and the rustle of colonial ledgers. It is weight and memory. It is value defined not just by rarity, but by story. The queen may be gone, the empire long dismantled, but this small coin remains, a copper relic that outlived its masters, and now tells its own story. There are stories that survive in palaces and battlefields, in treaties and textbooks, and then there are quieter legacies, ones held not in statues or speeches, but in the palm of a hand. The 1897 1/4 anna, a small, copper coin, barely 25 millimeters in diameter, is one such legacy. Worn by time, once passed hand to hand in colonial marketplaces, now remembered not for its buying power, but for its witnessing power, its role as a silent observer of an empire's rise and its retreat. In this final chapter, we trace not just the coin's physical journey, but its emotional, cultural, and symbolic place in Indian memory. We ask not only, what is this coin worth? But also, what does it mean? The 1897 1/4 anna is more than just a coin. It's a thread that stitches together generations, a grandfather's memory, a grandmother's dowry box, a child's first lesson in history, a collector's discovery of heritage. It appears in old photographs, sitting quietly on wooden desks, in fading diaries, mentioned in passing as part of train fares or school fees, in heirloom tins and family trunks, nestled beside ration cards and letters written in Urdu, Bengali, or English. When India gained independence in 1947, the symbolic weight of colonial coinage shifted. The coins of Queen Victoria, once tools of commerce and control, became artifacts of a departed regime. Some saw them as relics of oppression, others as pieces of historical inheritance, evidence of endurance, resilience, and transformation. Government mints transitioned to Republic of India issues, and the Queen's portrait disappeared from circulation. But collectors, historians, and the culturally curious continued to seek these old coins, not to glorify empire, but to understand it. A coin is not just a medium of exchange. It's a medium of expression, of politics, of design, of identity. The 1897 1/4 anna, with its English inscriptions and Victorian crown, tells us who held power. But it also tells us about Indian life under that power, how millions adapted, endured, resisted, and persisted. Its very wear and tear is part of its storytelling. A smooth rim might speak of decades in a farmer's pocket, or a scratch might mark a wartime journey, or a bright, preserved surface might suggest ceremonial or intentional preservation, perhaps even hidden from sight. Coins, like people, carry marks of the lives they've touched. Occasionally, the coin even finds its way into fiction, into novels, films, or short stories as a symbol of old India. In a Bengali short story, an old man clutches a Victoria coin as the last proof of a lost friend. In a Bollywood film, a street child finds a copper coin that opens a subplot of unexpected fortune. In classrooms, the coin is passed around in history lessons, letting young hands touch the past, not as an abstraction, but as a tangible reality. To a seasoned numismatist, the 1897 1/4 anna is not simply Victorian copper. It is a time capsule, a puzzle piece, a work of art, a mystery. Collectors often speak with reverence about their first 1/4 anna. There is, among collectors, an unspoken code: preserve, don't erase. Don't polish away the past. Don't override its meaning. Let the coin speak. And it speaks still, of colonial trade, of Indian marketplaces, of human hands and histories long past. Today, many 1897 1/4 anna coins live far from the land of their birth. They reside in London flats, in Toronto basements, in New York antique shops. They are kept by members of the Indian diaspora, not just as currency of the past, but as heritage objects, anchors of identity, bridges to grandparents, great-grandparents, and the India of stories. In these homes, the coin takes on new meaning, not just as a piece of India under British rule, but as a piece of India before partition, before flight, before loss. To reflect on the 1897 1/4 anna is also to reflect on the empire that minted it. This is not just a coin, it's a statement, a declaration of dominance. The crown head of Queen Victoria was meant to remind Indians of their place in the imperial order. But today, that image no longer commands obedience. Instead, it invites interpretation, and sometimes quiet defiance. Historians now study these coins to expose systems of exploitation and control. Artists reinterpret them in sculpture and print. Museums display them not as glorifications of empire, but as complex, contested symbols. A coin may outlive a crown, a monarch, An empire. The 1897 quarter anna outlived Victoria, outlived the Raj, outlived the rupee it once represented. What remains is not just copper, but context. The coin is now. Era teacher, era memory holder, era question, era keepsake, era symbol. It lives not in ledgers or bank vaults, but in drawers, in hands, and in hearts. From empress to heirloom, from marketplace to museum. The 1897 one quarter anna has earned its place in history, not by virtue of its power, but by the richness of its journey. And in that journey, it reminds us, even the smallest coin can carry the weight of an era. It began with a lion. It became a shield. And through it all, the 5-pence coin, small, silver, and humble, endured. We've traced its journey from medieval shillings to the decimal revolution, from the clang of the Royal Mint's presses to the warm, familiar rattle in your pocket. In an age when coins are vanishing into digital fog, the 5-pence remains, a tiny token of trust, history, and continuity. This is more than just metal. Its meaning, pressed and passed from hand to hand. The 5-pence coin has witnessed wars, coronations, Olympic Games, economic upheaval, and royal transitions. It has changed shape, size, and face, yet remained recognizable. It has entered piggy banks, vending machines, and jukeboxes. It has fallen between couch cushions and clinked into charity boxes. Forgotten at times, treasured at others. It survived the decimalization storm. It weathered inflation. It adapted to new monarchs, materials, and monetary trends. And still, quietly, unassumingly, it continues its work. Why spend so much time on such a small coin? Because coins are mirrors. They reflect who we are as a nation, our rulers, our symbols, our values. They tell stories no textbook can, stories of labor, leadership, and legacy. The 5-pence coin isn't just a currency unit. It's a cultural time capsule. From the bold lion of 1968 to the elegant segment of the royal shield today, the 5-pence has always carried with it the subtle weight of symbolism. It is monarchy. It is identity. It is Britain, in 18 millimeters of nickel-plated steel. Let's recap this remarkable journey. A pre-decimal roots, once part of the shilling. It carried forward hundreds of years of tradition. A decimal dawn, born into a new system in 1968. Launched officially in 1971. A design revolutions, from Ironside's lion to dense puzzle piece shield, with monarchs' profiles evolving across eras. A changing materials, from cupro nickel to steel, lighter, more efficient, more modern. A cultural life, embedded in childhood memories, everyday purchases, and British pop culture. A shrinkage and survival, despite inflation and obsolescence threats. It has outlasted many. A Royal Mint craftsmanship, forged with care, from raw metal to masterpiece. A collector's charm, sought after, studied, and cherished by enthusiasts nationwide. An uncertain future, a survivor in a world speeding toward the cashless. The 5-pence coin is both history and prophecy. It tells us where we've been, and hints at where we are going. Perhaps you have one now, tucked in a change purse, wedged in the door of your car. Maybe it was your bus fare once, or a lucky coin you kept for years without knowing why. Pick it up. Look closer. That's more than metal. It's monarchy. It's memory. It's time itself, engraved. The coin in your palm has likely changed hands hundreds of times. Each hand with a story. Each transaction a moment of connection, trust, or necessity. That is the magic of money, not just its purchasing power, but its passage. While distinctly British, the 5-pence coin has also travelled the world. In soldiers' pockets during deployments abroad. In tourists' purses and coin jars overseas. In collectors' albums from Australia to Argentina. It is a coin of journeys, geographic and generational. It might be small, but it knows how to travel. And how to endure. Will it last? Some say the 5-pence is nearing its end, too small to matter in a world of contactless cards and cryptocurrency. Others argue it's part of our heritage, and should remain for as long as physical money exists. What's clear is this: its value may have diminished economically, but its meaning has only grown richer. Coins may come and go, but this one has earned its place in Britain's story. And as long as it clinks at the bottom of our wallets, it whispers that story still. So, the next time you find a 5 pence, don't dismiss it. Pause. Consider the hands it's passed through, the reins it has spanned, the history it carries in its miniature form. It may be the smallest coin in your pocket, but it holds the largest tale. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the past, present, and possible future of the 5 pence coin. If you've enjoyed this documentary, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. And let us know in the comments, what's the oldest coin you've ever found in your change? Until next time, keep your eyes open. Your history might be hiding in your wallet.